You ever notice how the biggest moments in your life sneak up when you're just starting to believe in the good? That's where I found myself 3 months after I said yes to Ethan's proposal. 3 wild, beautiful months that turned my world upside down in all the best ways. Scholarship finished, a shiny new title as guest experience coordinator pinned to my name, and this giddy, unstoppable feeling every time I remembered that the man I loved was for real building a life with me. Ethan Cole wasn't just a chapter in my story. He was the guy who saw me before the world did, who heard my voice even when it shook, and somehow made me believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserved everything good that came my way. You'd find us together almost every night, side by side on the balcony of his penthouse, plotting the kind of future we both wanted, one that wasn't just about us, but about giving back too. The idea for a program to train underprivileged youth in hospitality had been mine, but it was Ethan's faith that turned it into more than just a dream. One evening, as we looked up at the sky, searching for some quiet secret among the stars, him teasing me for my daydreaming, I remember telling him, no matter how dark things get, the morning always comes. He just smiled, kissed my forehead, and promised, as long as you're by my side, I'll never fear the night. I wish that promise had been enough to hold back what was coming, because it wasn't long before the night hit, and hard. Picture this: a boardroom full of suits, tension thick enough to choke on, contracts waiting to be signed that could make or break everything we'd worked for. Ethan sat at the head, strong on the outside, but I saw his hand tremble as he reached for his pen. He didn't even get a word out before his body slumped forward, silent, terrifying. The room exploded in panic, and I felt the floor fall away beneath me. An hour later, I was standing outside the ICU, heart racing, tears streaming, as doctors fought to pull him back from the brink of stress-induced cardiac arrest, the bill for too many sleepless nights and ignored warnings. And just like that, the empire we'd been building together was suddenly, terrifyingly, mine to carry. That first board meeting alone without Ethan felt like standing in a freezer. The executives, who'd always smiled politely when he was in the room, suddenly looked at me like I was an imposter. The chair cleared his throat and asked who'd represent Ethan's stake. I barely heard my own voice when I said, "I will." Some of them scoffed. "You're not a trained executive, Miss Davis." And you know what? Maybe I wasn't, but I'd survived worse. I told them, I may not know suits and spreadsheets, but I know service. I know what it's like to lead when nobody's looking. You could have heard a pin drop. For a second, I almost laughed at the iron, the girl who used to mop the floors, now standing at the end of the table. But I wasn't here to be Ethan. I was here to be the storm. The next few days, I felt eyes on me everywhere. I went some doubting, some just curious, wondering why the new girl's badge was suddenly upgraded, why Ethan's assistant was now reporting to me. I tuned it all out. I had bigger battles. What I didn't expect was the woman waiting for me in the conference room, Vanessa Johnson. She once tried to ruin me, but today she was different. No fancy sunglasses or entourage, just humility. "You promised you wouldn't use those files against me, and you kept your word," she said. "I want to help for real this time." I wanted to tell her to get lost, but there was something genuine in her voice, a trace of the person she could have been if life had bent a little kinder. I let her stay, but with a warning: one lie, one stunt, and she was out. Sometimes you gotta let people try to rebuild what they broke, you know? That week, the stakes just kept getting higher. I was gearing up for the Cole Estates Galar annual splashy event. Now my first public test as the face of the company, when Vanessa warned me that our rival, Fairgate International, was coming to crash the party. Sure enough, I bumped into two of their guys in the lobby, slick, smug, trying to rattle me. "Heavy crown for someone with your background," they sneered. I just smiled. "If you came here to scare me, you should have worn boots. I don't slip on polished floors. I learned to run in mud." That shut them up. For the first time, I saw that maybe they were the ones scared of me. The gala night shimmered with champagne and nerves. My dress was royal blue, simple but unforgettable, my hair pulled back tight because I needed every ounce of strength. Vanessa was in my corner, now officially running PR, whispering, "You're trending, Al Reddit," and stumble. When I walked onto that stage, the crowd went quiet. Not long ago, I clean the floors of this building, I said. Tonight, I help build what it stands for. Gasps. Flashes. But I kept going, sharing the vision Ethan and I had built for a new scholarship program so that the next Emma Davis wouldn't need a miracle to be seen. The applause that followed was thunderous, but in the shadows, Fairgate was already plotting their next move. The morning after the gala, while the city buzzed about my speech, an anonymous email landed in my inbox, doctored images, fake transactions, all designed to make it look like I'd stolen from the company. I barely had time to panic before Vanessa showed up, read my face, and got to work. With the help of her friend Bulma, a digital forensics expert, we traced the attack to a junior analyst named Mark, bribed by Fairgate, the whole scheme orchestrated by Daniel, their hatchet man. We gathered every scrap of proof, then I called a private meeting of the ethics committee. When Mark finally confessed, naming Daniel as his paymaster, I handed the board an envelope, a motion to cut ties with Fairgate for good. No more snakes in our grass. But none of that meant anything until I could tell Ethan. I sat by his hospital bed, telling him everything, even reading aloud the first anonymous note he'd ever slipped me for the girl who works with grace even when the world is unkind. And right then his hand moved. His eyes opened. He was back. I cried and laughed and told him, I didn't just hold the empire, I grew it. The doctor said he needed rest, but the truth is, the world had already changed while he was gone. We kept building. We held a town hall not for the elites, but for the people who made the industry run. Cleaners, cooks, bellboys, dreamers. I spoke from the heart. I don't want the next Emma Davis to wait for a miracle. I want her to walk into a system that already values her. The applause was different that day, real, raw, like the sound of a world shifting on its axis. But life's never done testing you. 2 days later, a data breach hit company files leaked online by Fairgate through an old vendor. This time, Ethan was there beside me, leaning on a cane but strong in spirit. We opened every file, released the truth ourselves, he said. It was risky, but we had nothing to hide. Investors rallied, critics turned supporters, and for the first time, I felt the foundation we built was unbreakable because it was honest. When peace finally came, it was quiet, gentle. Ethan and I sat beneath a courtyard tree, talking about forgiveness, about pain, about how you only bloom when you learn where the light is. He asked me if I'd forgiven my father, a man whose mistakes had nearly shattered me. I wasn't sure, but I knew it was time to try. So, one quiet afternoon, I took Olivia me little Sisterto visit our father in prison. He looked smaller, broken by time. I told him the truth. You broke us, but we healed. And I forgive you. Not for you, but because I need to be free. Sometimes, true freedom begins with forgiveness, not escape. The day Ethan and I married, white lilies lined the aisle. Olivia wore a sash that said, Future So, and Vanessa sat in the front row, quietly crying. I walked that aisle alone, not because I had nobody, but because I needed to honor every step it took to get here. You made it, Ethan whispered. We made it, I replied. That night, we watched the city from the rooftop, no gowns, no cameras, just us in the sky. You never let the mud keep you down, he said. You turned it into soil. And I told him, you watered the roots. The world below kept spinning, but up there we were planted, blooming, unbreakable. So let me ask you, when life throws you into the mud, do you let it bury you? Or do you dig in, grow roots, and build something even stronger? Drop your thoughts below, hit that subscribe button, and let's keep this conversation going because your story, like mine, is just getting started.